Welcome to Alala Audio, soft stories for busy hearts. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. Thank you for being here. I saved a poor boy. Turns out he's Billionaire's son. At 7, the exact age everyone seems to hate, I dragged Kelly Nolan through a gap under the fence, headed for the creek to catch frogs. In the end, we didn't catch any frogs at all. Instead, we caught an 8-year-old boy. Even using all our strength, we couldn't pull him out. So I hurried to grab some wild grass, crushed it with a rock, and plastered it over his wound. Miracle doctor. Under Kelly's worshipful gaze, I curled my lip, trying to look calm. I had no idea what that plant was or whether it worked. TV dramas always did it like that anyway. You watch him, I'll go get help. I told Kelly to stay, and keep an eye on him, then ran off to find an adult. I even tugged at the hem of my shirt as I said it. What a shame I didn't have a cape. If I had one, I'd have looked exactly like a little heroine as I ran. My heroic aura shattered the moment the foster director caught me, and yanked me aside for a fierce scolding. With tears streaming, I cried as I led the way. Greedy little Kelly had already run off, leaving the boy behind. The grass poultice I'd slapped on him had dried into stiff, flaking clumps. The director hadn't expected what I said to be true. She hastily called the police, then an ambulance. With sirens wailing, the boy was carried away. As for me, the director took me down to the police station to make a statement. I didn't report Kelly, but she sniffled and reported me first. It was Tess Carter who made me crawl under the fence to the woods behind the home to catch frogs. She's the one who smeared those plants on that boy. It has nothing to do with me. Hoo. When we got back, the director had the fence gap blocked. I had no choice but to play in the yard every day. Angry at Kelly, I refused to speak to her for a whole week, and she didn't dare come near me either. That day, a billionaire came to see us. I watched him step out of a car with a tiny silver angel on the hood. His clothes, the kind you could tell were top quality at a glance, elegant and luxurious. Exactly like those domineering CEOs in the short dramas Aunt Wendy watched. Behind him stood a boy, completely different from the boys at the home who always fought with me. No runny nose, clothes clean and tidy, teeth perfectly white and even, not a single one missing. I was sprawled belly down on the swing when the director brought them to stand in front of me. Tess, stand properly. The director had a bit of a headache. By force of habit, she almost raised her hand, but held back because there were guests. I glanced over. No slap. I immediately sprang up, stood on the swing, spread my arms like an eagle taking flight, and deliberately let one hand drop, full of provocation. That do you dare posture of mine made the director forget about saving face in front of a VIP semicolon. She dragged me off and laid into me with a severe scolding and punishment. In the end, hiccuping with tears, I stood sullenly off to the side. I'm so sorry, this kid is a little wild. The director apologized, embarrassed. The billionaire didn't mind at all. Haha, if my son Adrian is alive, it's thanks to this girl's quick wits. A little mischief is how she noticed him. Wild is good. The director forced a smile. Your son is truly fortunate. The hill behind the home has tricky terrain. Even locals don't go wandering there. As for Tess, as she spoke, her hand itched. She tugged me closer, and barely restrained herself from doling out more punishment. So we really do have to thank her. Besides a $5 million donation to the home, I'd like to ask what she wants as a reward. The moment Kelly heard that, she ran right over. Seeing she'd also had a part in rescuing his son, he kindly asked what she wanted. She timidly held up one finger. The billionaire exhaled in relief. All right, $1 million for you. Kelly's eyes went round and her mouth dropped open in shock. I knew perfectly well she'd only meant $1 for a lollipop. Of course, to me $1 million meant nothing concrete. I only thought it could probably buy a mountain of lollipops. Then his gaze fell on me. I slowly raised one finger, then gently shook my head. He frowned slightly, still guessing how many fingers I meant to raise. When, thud, I dropped to my knees, hugged his leg tight, and cried, Dad. That sound seemed to shake the air itself. He stared at me, a man of the business world, usually so good at controlling his expression, revealing astonishment for the first time. The director rubbed her forehead and drew a deep breath. Behind him, the billionaire's son let out a soft laugh. The billionaire finally recovered, forced a smile, and tactfully declined. I'm sorry, kiddo. How about I give you $5 million instead? I slowly let go. Just as he sighed in relief, I whipped around and hugged the boy behind him tight. Husband. The whole world went silent, like someone had hit a mute button. At that time, I was 7, and the billionaire's son was 8. The boy gaped, showing those perfectly even white teeth. Then his face flushed red, and by instinct he tried to step back. I still hugged him tight without letting go. I was strong and wild, and the billionaire's son got yanked down to the ground with a thump. I was immediately hauled upright. This was the harshest punishment the director had ever given me. As she scolded me furiously, she barked. I told you to stop sneaking those short dramas Aunt Wendy watches. You're only 7. What on earth is in that head of yours? Where's Aunt Wendy? Where is she? Aunt Wendy didn't show her face. The telling off went on so long even the billionaire's son couldn't take it. He tugged at his father's sleeve. Only then was I released. Director, how about this? The billionaire said. Let me take the child home and raise her. Make sure she's supported through college. I don't know what else he said after that. My legs ached from standing facing the wall so long, I couldn't take in a word. In the end, per the director's request, Kelly and I got into the car. Together, we entered the world of the rich. The Grant mansion was like a maze. It took Kelly and me a full week to memorize all the rooms. Adrian Grant was our guide, calm and composed even at his age, leading us around to get familiar with our new home. This is my father's study. You can't go in without permission. This is the gym. This is the home theater. Every time we reached a new place, I let out a little wow, while Kelly followed quietly behind, her fingertips gliding over the expensive decorations. In the second week, we were enrolled in the most prestigious private school in the city. The lucky part was, I got to attend with Adrian. Kelly did too. We lived in a big house. The cook made food even better than Aunt Wendy's. Every meal was a balanced, nutritious set. We wore pretty dresses. Only, the young master rarely smiled, almost never laughed. How rich was the billionaire really? I didn't know. All I knew was that at first I only clung to Adrian. And now, I'd become his perpetual tag-along. The moment we were shoved into the helicopter, I ignored the zip ties, pressed my face to the window, and shouted with my mouth wide open, Adrian, the ocean is so beautiful. Whoa, we're so high. Adrian, I forgot to tell you something. I'm actually a goddess. The goddess earned herself a strip of tape slapped over her mouth by the angry kidnappers. And the world fell quiet. When the kidnappers brought us down onto a small island, they left Adrian and me there, and I saw the guns they carried. A deafening explosion went off. Even the animals in the forest scattered and dropped. Adrian and I were locked up and left hungry and thirsty for a long time while the kidnappers were probably calling someone, swearing up a storm. Maybe because we were just kids, they didn't guard us closely. After all, what could 7 or 8-year-olds possibly do? I worked a hair clip against the lock for hours before I finally got it open. A skill I'd picked up from being shut in dark closets as punishment came in handy here. While they went to eat, Adrian and I ran for it, tripping and stumbling without caring. We hid in a tight cave. I felt around, no hidden master, no secret martial arts manual. Adrian seemed very cold. I stopped hunting for secret manuals, pulled him into my arms, a little worried. Don't you die on me, okay? If you die, how am I supposed to live? There's a lot you still have to do, you know. You're young, you have to try. Think about it. You were born with a silver spoon, money you can't even spend, and your toys, your future wife and kids, if you die, they'll all belong to someone else. Adrian coughed twice and gave a small laugh. How many toxic short videos has Aunt Wendy made you watch? I thought about it seriously. Aunt Wendy turns them on every day, listens while cooking, watches whenever she's free. The longest series is over 300 episodes. You have to sit through hundreds of ads just to keep it playing. I saw his eyes sliding closed. I yelled without thinking, if fate won't spare me, I'll flip the whole script. When I get out of here, you're all toast. The boy in my arms trembled. After that, the billionaire led people to find us. By then we had passed out, still holding each other. I felt like if they'd been any later, I really might have seen God. Back home, the billionaire wiped a tear from the corner of his eye and called me Tess, every word full of feeling. I glanced at him and weakly opened my mouth. Dad. The billionaire's face stalled, and in the end he managed to And just like that, the billionaire became my dad. There was no helping it. Every day I kept calling Dad, Dad, until finally, he said I might as well call him my foster dad and make it official. Birth dad, foster dad, whatever. All I knew was turning the billionaire from those short dramas into my dad. This goal was finally achieved. Too bad Aunt Wendy wasn't here. Otherwise I would definitely have dragged my dad over to brag in front of her, so she'd stop saying I was wild because I didn't have a father. Now I not only had a dad, he was exactly the kind of billionaire dad Aunt Wendy liked best. Kelly stood next to us, looking on with envy. I shot her a look. She wanted to say it too, but when she saw the tycoon's iceberg face, she didn't dare open her mouth. The billionaire clearly had no intention of taking on another foster daughter. He never mentioned it. And that was that. After the kidnapping, nighttime was the first time I'd ever been too afraid to sleep alone. But because the billionaire hadn't taken her in as his daughter, Kelly got mad at me, scowled, and left she'd rather hug a pretty doll than sleep with me. So I crept over to Adrian's room. If you didn't want to sleep alone, you could have said so earlier. Fine, I'll sleep with you. I said it as I burrowed straight under his blanket, squeezing close, while Adrian very seriously explained that he could sleep alone just fine. I'm afraid of the dark, I said, perfectly reasonable. Adrian, 8 years old, in silk pajamas, said sternly. Boys and girls are different. You're my husband. He clapped a hand over my mouth, his face blazing red. In the end, I don't remember when I fell asleep. I only know he eventually compromised somewhere in the middle of my snoring. The next day, Adrian looked like he had no energy, which made me feel a faint twinge of guilt. By nightfall, that tiny guilt was gone. Kelly locked her door. No matter how I knocked, she wouldn't open up. So I ran to Adrian's again. Luckily, for all his outward disdain, the kid didn't actually lock his door. So I secretly slipped in more times than I could count. I slept terribly, and Adrian slept perfectly straight. However he lay down at night was exactly how he was in the morning. I was different, crossways, lengthwise, on my stomach, on my side, on my back. Every time I woke up, I was never where it started. Later, Adrian really locked his door, but he said he could FaceTime with me, and only hang up after I fell asleep. In the pitch-dark room, I groped around for my phone. Adrian, go to sleep. 5 minutes later, Adrian, if you don't sleep, I'm hanging up. 10 minutes later, my snores kicked in. Adrian didn't hang up. Looking back at the log, the call lasted more than 7 hours. At the billionaire's house, life was truly carefree. As long as I was there, they dragged Adrian outside to play with me. Kelly didn't like him and refused to play along, saying he was always cold and didn't know any games. Let's play family. You play my husband, you play Kelly's dad, and I'll be Kelly's mom. That game didn't go any further because the other two fiercely objected. In a flash, 10 years passed. When the new school year started, Adrian went to college, and Kelly and I entered our senior year of high school, racing against the clock. Foster dad doesn't ask too much of you. Whatever score you get is fine. After graduation, come work at my company, they'll support you for life. Dad, I don't want to be a corporate grind machine. Dad, I don't want to be a corporate grind machine. I corrected. Why don't you pick a rich kid from your network for me, so I can be a little rich lady? He tapped me lightly on the head. Mr. Grant looked at me with a mix of disappointment and anger. Looked like he'd started sympathizing with the foster director. When I was young, my own father once beat me so hard he broke the coat hanger. I figured my son would be just as naughty, and I planned to give him a good whooping one day. Turns out my son's too well behaved, and my daughter's the monkey. Get lost if you don't test well. That little villa. Dream on. A bolt from the blue. The little villa he'd promised me vanished just like that. Furious, I gulped down the cup of coffee the chief assistant had brought Mr. Grant, not leaving a single drop. Chairman, the chief assistant was on the verge of tears. Mr. Grant rubbed between his brows. Does saying chairman automatically refill my coffee? Chairman, the assistant trudged out of the office after me, miserable. I trudged back to school, miserable too. If I'd known, I would have obeyed and kept my mouth shut. Who isn't a cog in the corporate machine anyway? Mr. Grant woke earlier than a rooster and slept later than a dog. Worse than any corporate grind. Sigh. Adrian, can you tutor me? I don't know when it started, but even Kelly had begun calling Adrian Adrian. After we were tracked into different classes in our second year, she had a new friend group and played with me less and less. Once, I was drinking a Waha milk on the stairs when I heard her call Adrian. She didn't turn on speaker, so I couldn't hear Adrian, but I could feel she was very happy. Sigh. Since starting high school, life had gotten weird. Not only would she not eat or live with me, she wouldn't even ride to school with me. She either walked part way and took the bus, or asked Mr. Chen, our house manager, to pick her up and drop her off. I didn't understand. Adrian went to school with us. Why couldn't we ride together? I didn't care. I still rode with Adrian. Adrian got more handsome by the day, with proportions like in a comic, and his hands were long and beautiful. Plus, his hobby was drawing. Every time I saw his pen flowing, I couldn't help but look a little longer. As for the other girls, no need to even mention it. Tons of people at school liked him. Handsome, talented, rich, top student. On top of that, he had that noble, gentle air. Since starting high school, he'd been confessed to nonstop. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that just taking a lap outside, someone would ask for his QR code. Too bad he had no sense of romance. Beautiful girls and gentle school belles, young and older alike, he turned them all down. Sigh, my brother, you know how he is, right? A few quick-witted girls came to probe for information from me. I narrowed my eyes and tried to look mysterious, rubbing my hands. A rich young lady slipped me 10 bills. He likes the female lead in manga, Japanese manga. That's all I can reveal. The rest you'll have to figure out yourself. If he finds out I said anything, I'll be in a tough spot. I had secretly looked through his sketchbook. There were no goddesses, just big-headed chibi characters, cute and adorable, but with a sly, mischievous air. But I didn't dare say that, afraid the story would get distorted if it spread. Who would expect the school's male god to like drawing cute chibis? Thinking of my little villa, I put my hair up and went to find the class vice rep. Vice rep, can you tutor me? I'll pay, no freeloading. I took out 1,000 yuan and slapped it on his desk, generous as anything. He stopped twirling his pen and pushed up his glasses. All right, I got busy. When I saw Adrian's message, it was already very late, so I didn't reply. The next day I forgot again. Several times in a row, I failed to reply in time. That day, I just set up a study session with the vice rep and was sitting in a cafe near school listening to him explain problems. His voice was a little soft. I had to lean in close to hear. Just then, I saw Adrian appear in front of me, his face as cold as ice. Next to him was Kelly, wearing a smile that wasn't quite a smile. She hugged her books and stood quietly next to Adrian. I looked up at him, then lowered my head again, acting like no one else was there, and kept working through problems with the study rep. Reed, could you say that again? I didn't hear clearly just now. Connor Reed, the study rep, was both the top student and the school's big shot. After Adrian graduated, he also got the school heartthrob title. He was a regular in the dean's office, the perfect example of someone who could be both the hero and the villain. When he fought, he was terrifying. In class, everyone just called him Reed. With him around, no one in our class ever got bullied. I followed everyone else and called him Reed too. I pushed the dessert in front of me toward him and smiled as fawningly as possible. Before Reed could open his mouth, a long, slender hand snapped the book shut. The motion was crisp, natural, like it was only right. Go home. I'll teach you. Adrian's voice was very soft, but it made my heart pound. I suddenly remembered how Kelly had called him on the stairs earlier to ask him to tutor her. Now she was hugging her books. It was obvious the two of them had already arranged to meet. I pulled the book back and smiled at Adrian. No need, I already have this monster helping me. Reed pushed up the glasses on his nose, voice lazy. Yeah, I'm enough. The air tightened abruptly. Adrian lifted his eyes. His gaze was ice cold. Tess, he said my name in a low voice, with no hint of emotion, and it still made my heart tremble. I immediately went soft, stuffed my book into my bag, and hurried to smooth things over. Next time, Reed. My brother doesn't come back often. I'll go with him first. Reed chuckled, almost imperceptibly. Oh, then go with your brother. See you next time. He put extra weight on the word brother. It didn't sound wrong, but it made the air around us even more suffocating. Leaving the cafe with Adrian, he tugged on my backpack strap and turned to Kelly. You go on ahead. Kelly's face suddenly turned ugly. Bitterness filled her eyes, and her voice shook. Adrian, you? Adrian gave her a light glance, his tone calm but razor sharp. You're a few months older than me. You don't need to call me like I'm your senior. One sentence like a knife. Kelly went still, her face going white. Then, what should I call you? I couldn't help chiming in, looking at Adrian with suspicion. I always felt like he'd gotten a little strange since starting college. Before, he hadn't objected much when I called him my brother. He looked down at me. Call me whatever you want. I slipped up. Then, husband. Adrian's ears instantly flushed red. He hadn't even opened his mouth when Kelly shoved me. Tess, what nonsense are you spouting? Shoved so suddenly, I staggered and nearly fell. Thankfully, Adrian grabbed my backpack strap and I steadied. We're all grown up now, okay? Do you think you're still a kid? Aren't your childhood jokes embarrassing enough? Kelly was the kind of person who was impossible to please. She shoved me, then reached out like she meant to help. Once I was steady, she drew her hand back, face expressionless, voice stiff. I let out a long sigh and looked up at Adrian's face. So beautiful it was like something out of a comic. His eyes were clear and bright. I couldn't tell what he was thinking. If it weren't for Mr. Grant treating me so well, and since I've already latched onto the Grant family, it wouldn't be classy to keep gold digging. I already have a rich dad, don't I? So why shouldn't I have a rich husband too? Eat together, use together, win-win. I muttered under my breath. You. Kelly was furious. What she hated most was my shameless way of taking everything as a matter of course. But from childhood to now, the thing I liked most about myself was exactly that undefeated nonchalance, always moving forward, never letting myself lose out. Maybe that's why, even though we grew up together, we drifted further and further apart. Adrian stepped forward to shield me, pulling me behind him with one hand, protecting me completely. That movement cut Kelly deeply. Tears sprang from her eyes and fell like rain. Adrian's voice was low, with a hint of mockery. Weren't you the one who told me Tess kept asking you to help her study? Yet there were questions even you didn't know. Kelly stared at Adrian, stunned. Her face went pale. Tears pattered onto the ground. After a long moment, she took a deep breath, as if mustering all her courage. Do you know how happy I was when I heard you were coming back today? My grades are better than Tess's. If you just go over a few problems with me, I could work hard and get into your university. Do you hate me that much? You only pick up the phone when it's about Tess, only reply to messages when it's about her. Adrian, how am I any worse than she is? Why can't you see me? She clenched her fists, lifted her chin, and, crying, practically shouted at Adrian. Her voice was hoarse, her body trembled. So that gives you the right to lie to me, Adrian said evenly. The words were nearly cruel, flat, direct rejection. Maybe that was just how he dealt with everything. Like all the people who'd admired him before, he didn't spare them a glance. Ruthless, cold, decisively brushing off every confession. Gifts from girls, he tossed them straight into the trash. Indifferent, self-possessed, not even an extra look. While I stood there dazed, Kelly slowly calmed down. She wiped the corners of her eyes with her fingertips, lifted her face, and asked in a trembling voice, "Why her? If it's because she saved you on that hill behind the home? I was there that day, too. To be precise, I was the one who stayed and watched over you. Why couldn't it be me?" Adrian had clearly lost patience. He tightened his grip on my backpack strap. If she won't go, then we will. I drew in a breath. Just a small movement. But it caught Kelly's eye. Her gaze dropped. In those dark, pretty eyes, all the long-suppressed resentment erupted like a volcano. At first she only laughed coldly, voice low. "What do you even rely on? Why does everyone treat you so well?" Then her voice suddenly shot up, almost a scream. "Why, even the thing I want most, you get so easily. In their eyes, you always have special privilege." I honestly wanted to tell them both to get their heads checked. I spent $1,000 on tutoring, and it was like I'd committed a mortal sin. And now I was getting yelled at for absolutely nothing. I froze, the bridge of my nose stinging, but I still straightened my back. What is this performance? I didn't do anything to either of you. All the grievances and bottled up emotions inside Kelly finally exploded. She pointed straight at me, eyes full of terrifying hatred. Why? Why does everyone treat you like that? Mr. Grant, the director, Aunt Wendy, Bean, Mr. Chen, everyone. Everyone is good to you. The thing I crave most, you get so easily. And me, no matter how hard I try, no one even sees me. Kelly looked on the verge of shattering. I'd never had the heart to argue with her. But those words, I couldn't swallow them. Has the director ever punished you? I shot back. That vase you broke and wouldn't admit. Bean, and I got disciplined so hard we couldn't sit right for days. And you didn't explain a word. I said you dropped it. Nobody believed me. They said I was framing you, and I got punished again. The director obviously favored you most. You never had to do the heavy, dirty chores. Even Aunt Winnie would secretly save the drumstick for you. Said you were the most sensible, the most well-behaved. The moment you came back, being stuck to you like glue. Sister Kelly long and short, and whenever you argued with me, he immediately ignored me. Our expenses, weren't they covered by Mr. Grant equally? Whatever I had, you had. And Mr. Chen was practically your private driver, wasn't he? Have you ever once waited for me? If I hadn't started talking, it might have been better. But once I did, I really felt like crying. I barely held it in. Kelly clamped her hands over her ears, tears clinging to her lashes, choking for breath. Since we were little, you could eat and sleep with Adrian, stroll into his room anytime. Even Mr. Grant's study, you ran in whenever you wanted. Those paper stars, those cheap, tacky little things, you folded by hand. He kept them in his study for years, and my gifts got thrown into storage. Did he ever look at them even once? The more she spoke, the more furious she got, turning to shout right in my face. A lump rose in my chest. I felt awful. Back then I'd asked her to fold stars with me, because it was right after Adrian and I had been kidnapped. I bought a pile of origami paper, and wrote safe and sound on each piece. I folded until my eyes were red and even asked if she wanted to fold with me. She turned up her nose and refused to join. Drew her own family portrait instead. Mr. Grant, Adrian, and her. I pestered her forever before she reluctantly added a tiny little silhouette of me in a corner. Mr. Grant had been exhausted at the time. He said all he wanted was for the family to be safe. So he kept the paper stars on his desk, a place to rest that wish. Because of that, he upgraded the security system. Adrian was never kidnapped again. Those stars stayed ever since. Later on, my gifts ended up just like hers, stored away with the $1 million collectibles no one ever touched. And what good is talking about any of this? Kelly snapped. Mr. Grant isn't just preparing shares for you. After you graduate, he's going to buy you an entire villa. And me. I'm kicked out the moment I graduate. Ha, what a pack of hypocrites. When were they ever fair to me? Enough. Adrian barked, cold as ice. If not for Tess, where do you think you'd be? Kelly looked like his words had stabbed her right in the heart. She wiped the corners of her eyes, turned, and ran. As for the shares Mr. Grant had mentioned, that was something he tossed out once while tipsy. I wouldn't dare accept anyway. And the $1 million he promised Kelly back then had been placed into a trust fund from the start, for her to use when she came of age. Back then I even stepped up, pointed to my own nose, and asked over and over, so where's my trust fund? Mr. Grant had smiled like an old fox. Didn't you just want a dad? Now you have one, good enough. I still remember answering. Then I want a husband too. Can I have Adrian? Mr. Grant had just tapped me lightly on the head. Later he said the gift for his foster daughter would be a little villa. But now that villa came with extra conditions. I drooped my head, but a second later I was already consoling myself. Hadn't I called him dad for over 10 years just for this moment? And that little villa, who knew if it would ever really happen? I kicked at a brick with my toe and trudged along. We got into the car. As soon as the door shut, the quiet was so complete I could hear us breathing. Don't overthink it, Adrian said suddenly. You've already looked out for her a lot. I leaned back in the seat, eyes closed, trying to hold back the tears rising up. It was useless. My eyes and nose burned. At the home, Kelly had always been everyone's favorite. Fair skin, a sweet tooth. Adults and kids loved her. I liked playing with her too. I clung to her and begged to play. The director said I was a naughty little monkey who'd spoil her, and forbade us from playing together. But she still became my best friend. I was wild. I'd fight hard. With me around, no one dared bully her. Even when she broke something and I got punished unfairly, I didn't get angry. When she ran home early and didn't tell the truth, I didn't get angry. After we moved in with Mr. Grant, she often went cold all of a sudden semicolon. I tried to give way. I was even afraid the staff at the Grants would bully her. I begged Mr. Grant more than once to look after her. When she wanted the car, I let her take Adrian's car. When she wanted new friends and a new life, and didn't want people to know she lived with the Grants, I never said a word, never intruded. In the end, my tears still fell, bitter and hot. I turned away and curled up. Sorry, Adrian whispered, leaning closer. I won't bring her up next time, okay? Tess, don't cry. His breath was warm, very close, his voice patient and gentle. I wiped my tears with my sleeve. When did I cry? What cat's eyes of yours saw me cry? Ridiculous. He let out a breath of relief, but his hand still didn't let go of my backpack strap. In the shadows, his brows and eyes were deep, his voice dropped. I've been calling you these past few nights. Why didn't you pick up? I blinked, then ventured. No way. Are you still afraid of the dark at your age? Saying it jogged my own memory. Sometimes I still couldn't sleep, haunted by fear of the dark from childhood. He'd been kidnapped more often than I had. Being afraid of the dark was normal. I have a secret trick, I said. I don't usually teach it to anyone. All you have to do is read, especially textbooks and academic stuff that make you think. I'm out cold by the time I hit half a page. It's magic. I opened my bag, ready to pull out a few books as examples, but his hand pressed mine down. I looked up and ran right into his dark, bottomless eyes. The usual chill was gone. A current of emotion surged there, making my heart skip a beat. Books aren't hard for me, he said. I don't like reading. So what do you like? The question popped out before I could stop it. He looked at me quietly. It was like a tide was moving in his eyes. He didn't speak for a long time. A tiny spark flashed in my head. I narrowed my eyes. Don't tell me it's Mimi-chan. But she's just a manga character. The 2D world and the 3D world are separate. How could someone you drew show up in front of you? Oh right, Mr. Grant also introduced you to those wealthy young ladies. I checked out a few tisk, each one gorgeous. Hard to choose. If it were me, I'd want them all. Tess! His sudden shout made me jump. I clutched my chest. My heart pounded. Sick. Everyone today was sick. He took a deep breath. Then, right in front of me, pulled out his phone and made a call. Do you want to marry me off for a business alliance? Adrian's voice was icy. On the other end, Mr. Grant sounded a little flustered. Well, the mountain I've climbed is tall enough for me, but I think you young people have strength and ambition. Why not climb higher? Find someone equally matched, and your future will be even greater. She's enough, Adrian said. Aye, fine, fate is fate. Without her, there wouldn't be you, either. Then the best would be to marry after you graduate, alright. After that I'll just retire and babysit your kids. A lifetime of work, I'm tired. Click. The call cut off. Mr. Grant's voice was abruptly silenced. Adrian's eyes were shining, fixed on me. Grandpa, your grandson is calling. My phone ringtone chirped absurdly. Adrian's expression darkened a shade. A little helpless, I pulled my phone from my bag and glanced at the screen. Reed. Ah, Reed, what's up? I answered. You left your notebook. A soft chuckle sounded on the other end, lazy and light. Then could you bring it to school tomorrow for me? I'll grab it then, okay? Reed. Tisk, when it comes to grades. Even I had to bow before a top student. Just thinking about it made me almost laugh. The moment the call ended, Adrian asked coolly, You like that guy? He stared straight at me. Those eyes, so beautiful you could drown in them, boiled with feelings I couldn't name. And my instincts told me to dodge. Obviously, he's the school's heartthrob. Lots of girls like him. Sure, Reed gave off a dangerous vibe. But he was a brilliant student and he was willing to tutor me. Even if it cost money, I couldn't lie and say I hated him. Not hating didn't mean I liked him. Adrian still didn't look away. His fingertips slowly tightened, as if he were afraid I'd run. That look made my skin prickle. I coughed to hide my guilt. When we got out of the car, I bolted for my room. Unlike any real study session, the next day when Adrian reached campus, he texted me to say that from now on, whenever he had a free moment, he'd video call me to tutor me. And just like that, I drifted into an online study mode with him. The good part was that, in front of him, I relaxed. If I didn't understand something, I could just ask him to explain it again. The bad part, he wouldn't let me turn off the camera. If I fell asleep at my desk, he'd call the house manager to come pick me up and put me in bed. Kelly, meanwhile, had moved out of the Grant house. The director rented her an apartment near school. I didn't even run into the director once. Director, long time no see, Tess misses you. You're here already. Can I take you out for dinner after school? I called the director, excited, but she only let out a cold laugh. Tess, I suppose I should be sweet to you now. After all, you're the billionaire's foster daughter, and you're tied to his son. In the future, if you casually donate a few $100,000 to the home, plenty of kids will benefit for life. Her voice was calm, but strangely distant. I lowered my head. The director said, Kelly's been well behaved since she was little. Unlike you, always wild and breaking things. I hear you spend money like water. The moment you wanted into the Grant household, I knew you were bringing trouble. I humbled myself to beg the Grants to take Kelly, and they insisted on taking you instead. You rely on that thick skin of yours and bully Kelly. It was the first time I'd ever hung up on the director. I sank to the floor, also the first time I tried my hardest to steady my emotions. It took a long while before I calmed down. I knew the director disliked me, often scolding me, saying I was spoiling the other kids at the home. I just didn't know she hated me this much. When she called back, I still answered. Director, I don't know what Kelly told you. I'm grateful you took me in back then. If I'm ever in a position to give back to the home, I'll do my best. But for now, it's better if we stop contacting each other. I've never liked dragging things out. If it doesn't fit, then it doesn't. Fine. From now on, Kelly and I were strangers. When Mr. Grant heard that Kelly had moved out, he didn't say anything. Later the director called him, hinting that I'd bullied Kelly, that living with the Grants had forced her to be overly cautious, forever beholden, swallowing grievances she couldn't speak. Mr. Grant told the house staff to pull the full record of expenses for both me and Kelly over the years. Then he sent Kelly her portion. The 1 million trust is still yours. That's what I promised. And here's every living expense you endured while staying under my roof. If you want to pay it back, pay it. If not, leave it. Each semester's tuition, tens of thousands. Private lessons, tens of thousands. Piano, tens of thousands. Added up over the years. And just the tuition and tutoring alone came to several $100,000. Not to mention everything else. Kelly sobbed and hung up. I had the exact same itemized list. Hardly any difference. Even though I called him Dad, Mr. Grant had never treated us differently. Kelly's expenses weren't short by a single penny. Mr. Grant sighed, about to say more. I clutched my paper and shook all over. Business is business. Old foxes stay old foxes. So what if I'd landed a rich dad? Those short dramas lied to me. Since when does a billionaire foster father sit there and itemize tuition line by line? All these years, I put my faith in the wrong place. No money for me. Just one life left. Why don't you sell me off already? I yelled and bolted from my room. Mr. Grant glanced after me, then at the expense sheet in his hand. You gave Tess hers too? He asked. The house manager nodded. Mr. Grant rubbed his temples and called my name, but I was too busy crying to answer. Back in my room, the first thing I did was call Adrian. Hey, are you out of class yet? I chomped a pastry and ground my teeth. Turns out I'd been stupid. I should have milked the Grant family harder. I should have the billionaire and his son, who also needed to be my husband. Left pocket, right pocket. Now they want me to pay things back. Dream on. Silence on the other end. I pulled the phone away. It had already connected. I'm done with class. Right as I was wondering, Adrian spoke. I couldn't see his face, but I could hear how happy he was. There was even a smile he couldn't hold back at the end. Adrian, I want to test into your school. Where are your notes? I'm going to study till I'm pinning my hair up with a dagger to stay awake. Then I'll congratulate my future junior in advance. I'm still in lecture. Go look in my room. If you can't find them, ask Miss Tan. He hung up. Miss Tan later brought me the notebook. Inside were full, detailed solutions. Like he'd known someone would need them. If I brought it to school, the teachers would probably whisper a little prayer. Saintly kindness. A true dream of a million students. Mr. Grant even hired a private tutor for me. I asked Miss Tan and learned the fees were terrifyingly high. All I could do was sniffle and study my heart out. Honestly, how was I ever going to pay this back? You're actually very smart, the tutor said. Right on target. You just have poor focus. Get distracted easily. And you're careless. I studied until my eyes were bloodshot. Whenever I got sleepy reading, I jabbed my thigh with a pen to stay awake. Miss Tan panicked when she saw that N had people prepare nutritious meals and fruit for me. Even when Reed wanted to tutor me more, I had zero time left. The college entrance exams arrived right on schedule. Miss Tan put on a kipeo to see me off. Even Mr. Grant came along. Before I got out of the car, he smiled and said, "The little villa is waiting for your interior plan." I lowered my head and marched straight into the test hall. When it was over, Adrian came to pick me up himself. He held a bouquet, dressed in white sportswear, standing out in the crowd like a burst of light, drawing every gaze. Under all those eyes, Kelly broke through first. The media camera swung toward her and Adrian. The crowd let out waves of excited murmurs. Adrian, were you waiting for me? Adrian frowned slightly and shifted the bouquet aside. Sorry, please step away. Kelly's face flickered, then quickly smoothed, like she'd known the outcome all along. She said nothing more, just quietly moved aside, then slipped into the crowd without a backward glance. With so many people watching, I hesitated for a second. Mr. Grant had said the little villa still awaited my design. Forget it. What's a villa compared to a sweet husband? I barreled into him and landed squarely in Adrian's arms. He ruffled my hair into a mess, then took my hand and led me away. Adrian, the way you stood there, you look just like a star. Ever think of going the celebrity route? I teased. A rich young master becoming a movie star. Kind of fun to imagine. He ruffled again, popping a stray lock out of my bangs. Before the stardom could begin, the image was already ruined. After the exams, Adrian took me on a trip to unwind. In that moment, I truly understood what a free wind felt like. Just as I'd wished, I got into Adrian's university. But the moment I wheeled my suitcase toward the dorms, he dragged it straight to the condo he'd bought. And just like that, we moved in together. It didn't feel all that different. 2 bedrooms, 1 living room semicolon. The house staff still came by to clean. Daily life didn't change much. That day, I opened his room to look for my stuff. The drawer he always kept locked he'd forgotten in a rush. Curious, I tugged it open, expecting some earth-shaking secret. Inside was just a thick book. No wonder I never became a study god. That notebook was thicker than my textbooks. I flipped a few pages, then froze. It wasn't a notebook. It was an album. Every photo inside was me. 7 years old, first time at the Grants, in a princess dress for my birthday. A dab of frosting on my nose when I blew out the candles. When Adrian and I were kidnapped, the moment we were rescued, I was hugging him tight, both of us unconscious. Me playing in the garden, pestering Miss Tan to let me catch fish in the pond. Me at piano practice, passed out on the keys, cheek mashed against the notes. Me in dance class, crying from the pain of a deep stretch. My school ID photo in uniform. Me at a speech contest, winning 2nd place. I turned page after page, watching the whole little life journey of little Tess from 7 onward, carefully kept by someone. I'd never seen any of these photos. The last one was a candid, me sprawled on a desk sleeping, Adrian half crouched beside me, face close, a finger poking my cheek. The image froze on the small smile at the corner of his mouth. Behind that were thick blank pages, and on them Adrian had written line after line. Tess and Adrian. Love journal. The growth diary of Mimi Chan. I stood there dumbly. No matter how slow I was, I got it. The adorable chibi Mimi Chan in Adrian's sketches was me. That silly little thing was me. He liked me. Beside the album were lots of unopened little boxes, different flavors, stuff tied in the drawer. I slammed it shut like it wasn't an album in there, but a smoking bomb. My head buzzed, like 10,000 bees were throwing a party. Adrian, Mimi Chan, me, love journal. Taken one by one, those words were simple. Together, they were terrifying. A wave of panic unlike anything I'd felt washed over me. Not embarrassment, total disarray, with a guilty pinch. I liked Adrian, I'd known it for a long time. When you meet someone too bright too young, you can't settle for less the rest of your life. That Kelly liked Adrian was easy to understand. Because I liked him too. I just never dared face it head on. Mr. Grant had asked if I liked Adrian. Suggested we might as well make it official. I'd frozen then, insisting he was my brother. Mr. Grant only smiled and pulled out a stack of photos. Great. Then help your brother choose a sister-in-law. It's about time. Once the words were out, no matter how much it hurt, I gritted my teeth and cooperated. My heart felt like it was stuck full of pins. But I still blinked back tears and looked through each picture, doing my part. Those heiresses, every one of them trained like successors, outstanding beyond belief. Mr. Grant said, truly wealthy families don't need alliance marriages. They're strong enough on their own. Only small, weak companies need to cling to others. Staring at those girls, I saw even more clearly how exceptional Adrian was, and how solid the Grants' standing was in the city's business world. I don't remember how I walked out of that room, but everything I tried to bury surged up the instant I opened that album. Someone as imperfect as me, being loved so fiercely, how could I not be moved? The thin curtain between us was a poke away from tearing, and still I fumbled, uneasy. What should I do? How should I tell Adrian I'd seen that album? And those little boxes? I hadn't figured it out. I kept avoiding him. He must have sensed it. His eyes turned into those of a wounded fawn, forcing out a smile. Until an upperclassman confessed to me. Then Adrian finally snapped. His gaze grew more intense each day, a beast stirring behind it. When Reed called me, that beast broke loose. Hey, Reed, you're in New York City too now? I asked. Oh, need to be that literal. He sneered. On campus, I'm Brother Reed. And off campus, I'm just Reed now. The truth is, in high school he'd been a genius, and campus god. Halo after halo. But university threw him straight into the adult world. The current swept him along. And the halo faded. He became as ordinary as anyone else. Reality versus fantasy, one beat and done. I don't have bad intentions, he said. I just want to see how long your brother can hold out. Tell me when he's usually with you, so I can call exactly then. After 2 years of having to yield to Adrian, Reed had been the first to spot that Adrian liked me. Yes, him tutoring me had been deliberate, just to watch Adrian get jealous. A clever fox of a top student. One little scheme, and he had people jumping. When we talked in the cafe, he'd sit in a corner, coffee in hand, chin propped on one palm, watching lazily. Sometimes he'd call and ask, is Adrian with you? If not, I'll ring later. I thought he was sick back then. Now, I still thought he was sick. I'd barely hung up when Adrian was already standing in front of me. He lowered his eyes and stared at the phone in my hand. That guy again. You're slow to react. Everyone sees it. You're the only one who doesn't. Who said I didn't know? I knew. Just as I was about to say everything, he ducked his head and kissed me. His lips were warm, soft like jelly, brushing and pulling away. A little electric current rippled through me. He stared at me, stunned, like he forgot to breathe. Then, as if realizing what he'd done, a flicker of panic crossed his eyes, and he turned and ran. Ran for real. I stared, then licked my lips on reflex. Hey, what's wrong with you? You kiss a girl once and run. If you're going to cause a scene, follow through. I snapped back and teased his retreating back. The door that had clicked shut flew open. He strode out like the wind, scooped me up, and hauled me straight into his room. No Princess Carrie, nothing romantic. It was the kind of lift that had been held back too long, over the shoulder, the world flipping, then dropped me onto his bed. The mattress sank beneath me. His body was hot against mine, the kiss burned and wild. The air felt ready to catch fire. At the very last second, he slammed the brakes. He lay on his side, fists clenched so tight the veins stood out, breath rough and ragged, restraint almost painful. I tilted in and sighed by his ear. All that effort, and all I got was a face full of spit. That jabbed the beast in his eyes. I paid for my mouth very quickly. No wonder people say older girls who adore pretty boys don't know where they get all that stamina. In the end, I was exhausted, begging him to stop. He really had too much desire. I didn't want to go home. I dawdled and dawdled until he packed me up and kept me, trying out every idea he'd rehearsed in his head. What he knew, I suspected he learned from manga. I don't know where he got the references, but they were pretty. Even his hand-drawn Mimi-chan had a special collector's edition. Never in my wildest dreams would I have guessed. The clean, cool, model university guide on the outside was at home drawing H manga, and he had a particular possessiveness about the words husband and wifey. In my contacts, in WeChat, even at home, he wanted me to call him husband. After we graduated college, we got married. I sent Kelly an invitation. In the end, she didn't come. My phone buzzed in my palm. The screen lit up, a text from her. Very long, longer than anything I'd heard her say in years. Today my therapist asked me why I can play piano so well, and dance, calligraphy, painting all at a professional level. I told her, because I couldn't accept losing. I told my story, how a girl from a children's home tiptoed through a rich family's house, trying to prove she was worthy of love. She listened quietly, then gently asked me, "You've kept your eyes on the summit. Have you ever looked back to see how far you've climbed?" I didn't know how to answer. She was right. Tess, for years I stared up at the mountain called the Grants. Stubbornly compared myself to you. Tried to prove I deserved more love. But I forgot I'm no longer the little girl who had to survive by pleasing others. Maybe I admired you. How you seemed to get everything I wanted so easily. But more than that, I envied you. Envied how you lived honestly. freely, like a mirror reflecting all the pettiness and unworthiness in me. To be fair, Mr. Grant treated me very well. He never slighted me for being an outsider. Adrian, he's truly very, very good too. Only, that goodness was always, and only for you. I was too greedy, reaching for a moon that wasn't mine. Blind to the stars right beside me. Tess, goodbye. I wish you both happiness. The message lay there, quiet. It felt like she'd finally let go, made peace with us, and with the past. But I knew this text was the epilogue to our story. From now on, we'd go our separate ways. Like two rivers that once crossed, and then flowed on, never meeting again. I set the phone gently on the vanity. Outside, the sunlight was dazzling. It hit my wedding ring, and scattered into splinters. In that moment, I seemed to see the little girl from years ago at the home, trailing behind me, carefully hiding a piece of candy to share half with me. Turns out we'd lost each other long ago. Today was only the official goodbye. The director didn't come, but Aunt Wendy did. She wore a brand new outfit, hair in a bun, even her brows freshly tinted. Tess, I knew you'd be somebody since you were little. Tess, any big shot CEOs at the reception? Introduce one to me. While Aunt Wendy went CEO hunting at the wedding, Mr. Grant smiled in satisfaction and said, didn't expect that first meeting to end up as a true prediction? So then, when do I get a grandkid to hold? Sure enough, once people get older, they can't escape the curse of urging marriage and babies. Before, he nagged Adrian to marry at every chance. Now the wedding wasn't even over, and he'd started urging us to have kids. I fully believe that if we had one, the next step would be pressing for a second. Adrian had looked it up. Pregnancy meant a long period of restraint. He didn't want kids. As for me, I've heard the new way to curse people is to wish them one pregnancy. 8 babies. If it were one little girl, I could agree. But I don't want to gamble. Mimi Chan, my back hurts.